Hello, Berserkers. Back here again with Can Mobility, and we're talking about Giant Leap and Jump Sequence. Those are your mobility skills, or your most flashy mobility skills in Canon. Giant Leap, you can cast forward or backward, and does AoE damage when you go forward at the end of the skill, when you go backwards at the beginning of the skill. One thing to take note about forward is you should, is it knockdown? It's bound when you land at the beginning, and it's bound when you go backwards at the beginning. I'm sorry, it's bound when you go forwards at the end, and bound at the beginning when you go backwards. Ugh. Anyways, this skill is definitely invincible while in the air. You should be able to avoid all damage while traveling. One minor hiccup with this skill is when you have a big movement skill debuff, the distance you travel is terrible. Like, you could go what looks like in the game 2 or 3 feet. So be prepared that if you have a lot of movement skills debuffs, you're not going to go very far. You'll be invincible, but you're not going very far. One thing also to note is that going forwards will use your 100%, and you have a kind of like a, let's call it a wind-up animation on the forward. I'll do it one more time here in a couple seconds. You see, you kind of have to like prepare yourself to travel, right? So that could take a little time. Maybe it's a little telegraphed. What I like to use is the backwards one, S and F instead. So what I like to do with it is I like to kind of bait people. Most players don't. Like, you kind of look like, oh, he's kind of a sitting duck here, right? Well, you can hold this charge for as long as you have stamina. You see under my bar, it's going down, and when you release it, you go backwards, and that point of explosion is where the bound is that I was getting tongue twisted on. So what's also really cool about Giant Leap is you can tell it where to go just by panning your camera. So I kind of did a U-turn into the wall there. I'll try and do like a 90-degree turn as we go a little more forward. So, I mean, it's not the most epic of mobility and turning, but there is ways to kind of use and abuse it that's kind of fun. So, say there's let's call it a Meiwa, and he's just sitting over by the alloy symbol, and he's just blocking. They don't want to come at you because they want to try and counter your initiation. Well, it's kind of fun sometimes. Is I like to throw this skill down, turn my camera 180 and let go, and all of a sudden you're right in their grill, and they're like, what the hell just happened? So, just depending on how you use it, it could be an effective engage tool as well. Another fun thing, and I'll actually see if I can do it over here. I'll just use my horse. When people engage on you, you can kind of use it to turn the table as well, because you know that when you let go of S and F, it's a knockdown, right? But if you turn your camera fast enough, like I just did, you can actually knock them down and end up behind them and go in for that sweet, sweet hug to death maneuver. So I'll do that again one more time. So you hold S and F, they engage, you're like, not today, and you turn your camera really fast, and all of a sudden they're on the ground and you're behind them. So that's a neat little tool with the down, or S and F, the backwards explosion. Forgive me, I guess I'm coming down with a cold. Alright, so next is a big portion of the 100% that makes it so useful is moving with mouse movements. Now, those are located on a setting under the game right here where it says use mouse movements. So you're now like, what the heck is that? Well, old school MMOs actually had you click to move. It was hilarious and terrible and awesome at the same time. But if you hit control and you left click, your character goes to where your mouse is clicking. Now, when you have a bunch of crap on your screen like I do and you accidentally click a skill, you do that skill and you no longer move and you just look like an idiot. So I find myself not using this all the time. Some players do really enjoy this added I guess, feature or whatever you want to call it in the game. But since I don't have 100%, the best way I can show you is actually by using Slugfest. So Slugfest, as we know, normally we punch in a straight line and there's not much we can do about it. What's really fun with the mouse movements is you can move. Complete circle, I didn't move at all. My camera didn't move, but because I was clicking around like this, it made me do a 360. So, if you use it with your forward W and F, which would be your 100%, it's a little longer animation, so it's a little easier to control. I'll try my best here with W and F, but I'm not a master of the mouse movements, so if I look like an idiot, just put in the comments, man, you're terrible at Zerker. And yes, I know, I am. So here we go. So I mean, as you can see, I was able to do it. Whether there would have been a bad guy there to knock down or not is another question, but it is possible. So using your mouse movements can help you out. If someone's using iframes behind you, you can maybe punch them in the face and they had no idea it was coming. Some classes like to use them on their 100% because they're locked animations. The next thing with Giant Leap will be Jump Sequence. Jump Sequence is a flow that you get at 59. It basically is a second cast to Giant Leap. It doesn't add any damage, it doesn't add any special bells and whistles, it's just a second cast. You're like, well, what's the point of that? Well, to be honest, it's actually pretty good. When you're fighting in large groups in node wars, or you really want to get away from somebody, you can double cast and be across this arena in a matter of a second and a half. Do note that the cooldown is longer than the original cast of Giant Leap, so you can do another Giant Leap in the time frame that it takes for Sequence to come back. So there's two ways to do this. You can go in and then get out, or like I showed you before, you can just get out. I don't suggest using the forward one twice. I just feel like it takes too long because you have a double windup, and sometimes it just doesn't feel like the forward one goes as far. But I will show you. It does seem to go the same distance. I just feel like it takes longer. And I don't like being stuck at the end of the animation. So, another use for shake-off to cancel your animation when you're done with it. So, Sequence is pretty much just a nice useful tool for when you need to do a larger mobility or even close distance. So you want to close the distance pretty quick. You just use two of these, and ledges, they're pretty hard. It's terrible. Anyways, as you can see, they allow you to go a lot further than you could before. While it's more of a, what would you call it, a combat mobility more than just regular running around, like say I would use Lava Piercer for. It's definitely more of a combat thing. So from here, oh, and the other thing that I had in the text was the damage for the actual skill is spaced out. So if you notice, if you try and look behind as I go, there's kind of seems like it pulses. So there's like 1, 2, 3 pulse. When you're using your 100, the damage comes out in pulses like that. So not all of the damage is at the end when you punch the ground. I believe it actually states that in the skill. Yeah, so jumping attack is 1300 and the landing damage. So, and Giant Leap backwards is only the one hit at the beginning. So you have the initial flying damage times 2 and then the punch. So if you do it into a wall, you actually have all 3 of those in this spot. So I like to do that in PvE. If I'm in an area with walls, I'll just gather the mobs and run them into a wall, and they all eat max damage from the 100%. I actually feel like it does more damage than the axe one for sure, but it's not as large of an area and it's not as easy to control, and especially when you're using it in node wars, if if we need to kill a node fast or a structure fast, and I don't have time, or it wouldn't be useful to use the axe 100%. I'll just run up to a structure, use the 100% on it, and have a it's actually really good damage. You'd be surprised. So those are the mostly effective ways to use this skill. There's definitely ways you can put it into combos, and I know in a previous video I was showing how you use shooting mobility to disengage to avoid a like a counter initiate, and then you use it to get back into the fight. So I could show you that real quickly, and you get back into the fight. If you're like, oh crap, that they're still not knocked down, you can use shooting mobility, jump sequence to get back. So you can do in out if you want. It's very possible. Out, in, and you're like, oh crap, get me out of here. So there's multiple ways to work that into a combo in CC, and that whole like 3 skills I used there should have been super armor 99% of the time, unless they catch you in between those skill activations. It's possible, just not likely. Again, if you guys find other uses, please let us know in the Zerk Discord, and we'll try and share it with everybody. If it becomes if it becomes widely used, I will update the video and the guide accordingly. Good luck out there, guys.